Welcome everybody to Red G Fox. And the G stands for good afternoon. Thanks for joining us today. So we are now on our 4th episode. We got a lot more to go through, but still, I love doing this. And today's episode, definitely not one of my favorites. It's still got its moments, but like I said, after you just get done watching Here Comes the Bride, and especially Pop, it's your birthday, Pop, those two really have so many non-stop memorable scenes and so many comic scenes that you get to some episodes, and like I said, the whole first season is all taken from Otto and Son. So it's kind of a copy, and it's either way, it's a good episode. It's a good one. Every single episode I would always recommend watching, but this would be probably in my bottom 5 of it. And as I just watched it again, it's probably one of the least watched episodes I've ever gone through. Like I said, good story, but it's just more frustrating than anything else. So we start out right away. Fred, you open up the scene and he's eating his food. He's got the eggs and the runny eggs and the bacon, and he's eating it very sloppy. And Lamont, once again, we see Lamont, especially from the very first episode to even when they go out to eat, or they go out all these things for his birthday, he's trying to be the next level of his dad. He's trying to step up and go, hey, higher class. This is different, man. This is going to be, I'm not going to be like my dad. I'm going to improve. And he's reading the paper, about the different stocks and the values of things, and then he starts correcting Fred. Hey, do you have to eat so sloppy? Why are you gonna eat such sloppy? And he makes it a mess. And Fred's like, "What's the difference? It's all going to the same place," which is true. And Fred's in his own kitchen or living room. I guess you want to have respect. He's not that loud. They portray it as he is, but he is making a mess, dipping his stuff in the coffee as he's eating it. So it's a different way of doing it. I comment if I've never dipped anything inside my drink like that, but Fred does, and then they're, like I said, they're reading Lamont's like, hey, quiet down, I can't even focus. And this sets up the whole episode as he gets there and he's listening to different things, and he talks about, how the value of things. And then Kelly comes over. Kelly, he's a good neighbor. He's one of those guys that you believe lives there, right? Sometimes you might get someone you're like, that doesn't fit. He fits. Kelly fits. He comes over. He's missing his teeth, right? And they're talking about how his gums are getting firm because he's trying to get them ready for his fake teeth coming in. And Lamont and him, Fred, they're joking about it. And Fred actually touches them to make sure they're nice and, he's been soaking his gums and make sure they're nice and firm as he's getting ready for his teeth. And then he says, hey, I came over to mention that I got a guy who's got some copper, and he's not really into buying that kind of things in his business. And if they would be interested. And Lamont, of course, because he's reading it, and he says, hey, copper's worth, I think it was 36 cents a pound in the episode. And it's got value, of course. So they go out there, and Lamont's like, hey, let's play it cool. Let's go meet this guy. And the guy's in the show was Otto, but his real name, this is a familiar face. In the whole episode, this is probably the only face that, as soon as I hit it, I said, and like I said, I haven't seen this in a while. I've seen it, but not in a while to where I go, hey, I know that guy. It took me about a second to realize it, and then I go, that's the dad from Violet's dad, Violet Beauregard in Willy Wonka movie. And he's the familiar face. His actual name is Leonard Stone. And he's done other TV work and stuff. But that was the one thing to where I knew I've seen him, and it just took me a few seconds. And I go, yeah, that's him. That's him. And Leonard Stone. And an ironic thing, a fun fact it's not a fun fact, it's an ironic fact about this episode is that he mentions how he gets the copper from a church. And the church is getting torn down to become a car lot. And I just think it's funny that in Willy Wonka, he was a car salesman on a car lot. And now you can put 2 and 2 together. I just thought that was interesting. So anyways, back to the episode. They go out to meet him, and he seems like a shyster. And Fred, which I love about it, and a lot of this in season 1, as you see the show go on, Fred seems to be the one who wants to do the get-rich schemes, right, later on in the series, while Lamont's more, hey, let's take what we can get, right, when it's time to sell the house to the Japanese owners, to wherever Fred goes on his lucky streak, and Lamont's like, always like, hey, let's take what you get and slow down. Or even with Grady, when he gets all the extra Social Security checks, and Lamont's more like, hey, play it safe. This one, it's not. His character's more of a, let's do it. Let's get it, man. I'm smart, dude. Nobody's smart. I'm a young guy. I know. You don't know, Pop. Listen to me. And he does make sense in some of this, but Fred has just that intuition in him as being a businessman for many years, much more than Lamont, to where he doesn't like him. And what is his exact words? This is one of my top 5 funny moments, is that when he looks at him and he tells Lamont, he said, I don't like it. His sneaky eyes. He said, just because you're white doesn't mean, what is it? White doesn't mean stupid. White don't mean dumb. And that, don't think that this guy's just some, hey, you know, as he's trying to portray himself as just a gee golly guy, like a character you would see from Andy Griffith, where he's just like, hey, you know, I got some copper and I'll do it for 10 cents. And then Lamont's trying to contain himself and he's like, 10 cents. And he's all, oh, is that too much? You know, I don't want to get greedy. I know it's worth a little more. And he plays the part well. I think Otto, the character, does such a good job of to where if I met him, I would be like, oh, okay, this is a nice guy. And he's selling it to us cheap. So it's not like he's trying to rip us off. If the fact that Lamont knows it's worth 36 cents a pound, you know, it just makes sense. So I get why Lamont does that. But Fred had that instinct. And so they go back inside, as they do frequently throughout the series, to talk about business. Usually it's Lamont yelling and Fred yelling. But this time they go and they talk and he's telling them, hey, what it is. And then they decide, hey, you know what? Lamont's like, this is it. This is a good deal. Look this is what the price is. And Fred's like, I just don't trust him. I don't like it. I bet you it's stolen. And that's when he's like, well, let's find out where it's from. I bet you it's stolen, right? Why would you sell it so cheap? Why would he want to get rid of it so cheap? So that's a smart move. And Lamont's like, all right, let's go check on it. And that's when he talks to him. He's like, oh, you know, we're tearing our church down and I got the copper and, you know, and then he tries to act like, right. And a top 5 funny line that had me busting up is when he tells Fred, you know, right, brother? And he tries to like talk to him like they're all believers. And then Fred goes, I ain't got no brother. I got 2 sisters. He doesn't want, he's basically saying, you ain't my brother. Don't try to act like you're my brother. I'm not even on board with this deal. So 1, you ain't smarter than me. 2, don't act like you're my buddy just because you supposedly went to a church. And then they seal the deal. And then he's like, hey, you know, I might be able to get more copper. Either way, though, Lamont's like, hey, yeah, man, at this much, I'll take it, dude. Yeah, sure, bring it. And he's like, well, let's meet over there. That's a good place to do business. And he plays it so well. Otto plays the part so well to do that. So they go over to meet him. And he said, as they go over to meet him, he sits there and they're waiting. And now, remember, he said he'd be there in 10 minutes. He told him, hey, I'll be there around 9. Now it's like 10, 9:50, 10, almost an hour late. And Fred wisely is just not hearing it. So they're waiting and they're late and he's late. And then he comes crawling in, right? Lamont's like, well, let's finish this cup of coffee and we'll figure out what's going on. He comes in and then he's the all shucks guy. Hey, you know, sorry it took so long. It took so long. I had to get this extra 100 pounds of copper for you. And, you know, we're going to do it. 20 cents a pound, you know. And then Lamont's like, wait, no. We said 10 cents. And I almost like he purposely does it. It's a great setup for this guy to show how a underhanded guy thinks. He's like, oh, did I say 10 cents? Well, I'm a man of my word. So now he's making himself look good. He's sticking to the original agreement. So now Lamont feels even safer. But Fred was right. Sneaky eyes. Just because you're white don't mean dumb. And Fred was right on this. And Fred's just like, so, and then he's going to pick up the check for the coffee. What a great guy. But and Lamont's like, see, this guy's great. So gets it, buys it. They load it up on Lamont's truck, their truck, head back home, and they're there and they got the stuff, and then you see the cops come. And this is one of the best scenes in the episode, just in the fact that it's another top 5 funny point. When the cops come, we get the debut of Hal Williams as Smitty, and we get to see Swanee, who, you know, he's only in for how many seasons? 2 seasons, maybe. Anyways, I like Hoppy more, but Swanee was really good. He comes in, and Swanee's real name is Noam Patilic, but I like Swanee. And this is the debut of the cops on the show. So 4 episodes in, we finally get the police, and they set up the relationship. But the cop car comes. And then Fred's like, oh boy, see, I told you it was stolen. And he's like, well, you relax, it's not stolen. He got it from the church. And he goes, and besides, they're pulling over. If they were looking, they'd be walking up here. And then they see him, they're getting out of the car, they're looking around, now they're walking up. And they start panicking, so they cover the copper. They get inside the house, and Lamont's setting up the checkerboard, trying to be, hey, we're cool, we're calm, we're cool. You know, he's trying to play that. And that's when Fred busts out, you know, his famous, he's only done it, I think, once, maybe in the series. And he busts out the famous, oh, I ain't gonna make it. I'm coming. You know, Elizabeth, I'm coming to join you. And I'm gonna have numbers on my back because he's gonna be arrested for stealing the stolen copper. And they just overreact. And it's great for the debut of them. It's great finally getting to see Smitty for the first time. And I just love the reaction on that. That was a great scene right there. And they come in, and when they see him, they're like, oh, it takes the weight off. Oh, it's someone familiar. We know Smitty. And then they get to meet Officer Swanhauser. And right away, Fred's like, hey, Swanee, because they already got They call him Smitty, so now you got Swanee. And the way he says it, and the way Swanhausen looks at him is just, he does a good job of being very, very straight man, where he is just stiff and not bad acting, great acting, but very serious. He is like Barney Fife on steroids, where it's like no clowning around, no joking around. Everything's a serious matter, which we see throughout the series whenever he's in. And they're talking, and then he starts warning him, hey, we just came by here to let you know about stolen. And he does all his big talk. And this is a gag that goes throughout the show history, where later on they don't do it as much with Hoppy, because Hoppy kind of, remember, he learns all the right off, brother, or, you know, hang on, mother. He goofs up all the sayings, but he's trying to get at the lingo. And then there's episodes where Hoppy's there without Smitty. He can have full conversations. He wants to watch TV with Fred. So he evolves, he progresses and gets their lingo. But early on, you still see this gag where it was, he would say, one of the officers, Swanee or Hoppy, would say something really, like I said, great vocabulary, great dialect, and then they would have to look over, and then he's like, the fuzz is your cuz, bruh, or whatever, you know, the fuzz is your friend. And Smitty breaks it down, and love that gag, great gag. This is one of the top 5 funny moments when they get to do that. So yeah, first time, and that's a fun fact, first time ever in the introduction of Smitty and Swanee, especially seeing Hal Williams, who's a staple throughout the series and went on to do so many other great things. 227, one of my favorites. He only had one-time role on What's Happening Now, or no, What's Happening. He was on that, so he did a whole bunch of things. But I loved him on 227. I actually watched that more as a kid before I saw Sanford and Son, or at least it was more memorable. I'd seen Sanford and Son, didn't really, I was still too young, but 227, that's where I know Hal Williams from first. So he finds out, hey, you know what? They tell him the copper's stolen. Don't buy anything from any guy who comes around here. And then they're thinking, oh man, what if they think it's us? Stolen copper, blah, blah, blah. And then he translates it, and then Smitty's like, he's a white dude. I love the way Smitty, whenever he says that throughout the series, he's a white dude. He can basically tell it like it is, and he breaks it down. Then they're like, they're all relieved because now they can take the pressure off. So then they go outside, and they know that the copper's stolen now, most likely stolen, and they got it all hidden. And then they're joking around. Smitty's all, what you got under there, Fred? A whole truckload of hot copper? And they're trying their best to keep their cool. And even Officer Swan, if you look at him, Swanee, he looks like this. He's serious. He's like almost like he wants to look. And they totally play it off and, get him out of there. Yeah, you guys got to take off. And they go. So great introduction to them. One of the best moments. Now it gets to Kelly comes over, right? Or no. I'm sorry. Scratch that. After the cops leave, now they're nervous. And they're like, we got to get rid of this crap. We got to dump this. And this is what I never get. They did this with the gun. Remember later on where they have that classic gun, they could have sold it. They're worried about it and they melt it down. And it becomes a lump and it's worthless. And now they got this copper. I know you don't want to get busted with it. You just saw your cops. They're not going to come after you. If anything, you should have took it and hid it somewhere in your house, or something. I know you want to get as far as you can from it, right? Distance yourself. But this is one of the reasons I hate this episode. So they're just like, no, let's get rid of it. Let's get rid of it. Let's take it to the ocean. Let's take it to the beach and dump it. So they take off, man. They don't even get a drink of water. They just take off. They're out of there. They drive down to the beach, dump the copper, come back. And now there's like a sigh of relief. But as I'm watching this with Samuel, I'm telling him, I'm like, I'm not relieved. I'm pissed. I spent $40, right? I think it was 20. And then they brought, originally the other first 20. And then they brought the other 20. And they bought the 200 pounds. And it was, man, $40. You're out 40. That is a lot of freaking money right there. That's like a whole week of salary for my mom probably when I was a kid. $40 is so much money. And they're out of it now. And they're out of the copper, so you can't even sell it. So you might feel comfortable, but Fred at least said, he was still pissed. He was still not happy. And then Kelly comes back. And Kelly, his gums are starting to harden up. He hasn't been able to soak them because he's got no water. And he's like, I can't get any tap water. Can I? And he's got a bucket. And they're like, what the heck you got a bucket, dude? And they say, yeah, sure. Lamont will go give you water. And then they start talking like, I wonder what happened. Why is the water out? And they're like, yeah, it's probably out throughout the whole street, the whole neighborhood. Something's gone down, a main or something broke. But it'll be taken care of. And then you see Lamont's face. The minute Lamont comes in, even now, you would think Fred, being smart as he is, would have triggered, hey, maybe not. I mean, his water tap's not working. I guess you're not thinking that. But us, the audience, we knew the minute we heard that, that Otto guy, Fred was right. And then Lamont comes out and you can see his face. And he's like, we don't got no water either. And they're like, yeah, it must be something with the street. You know, it's got to be. It's got to be. So Lamont goes, well, let me go look in the basement. And he comes up and all their pipes are gone. And now Fred's just, they knew it. They knew it. They both got ripped off. And then Fred even says, that's why we had to sit at that restaurant so long for another hour. He was ripping off our own copper, and we weren't here because we were waiting like a bunch of dummies. And remember earlier, Lamont's like, it's cool, I'm cool, I'm cool. And then Fred lays into him. Was that one of my top 5? Yeah, that's one of the top 5, the last one. This one had me laughing out loud again when he's running, he's all, you big dummy. And always, my favorite line from Fred is always, you big dummy. A lot of people picked, when we did a poll in the past on our other channel, it was, hey, what's the most famous line from Fred? And it was, the number 1 was, Elizabeth, I'm coming to join you, honey. And when he passed away, but mine's always been, you big dummy. That one always cracks me up. And he lays into Lamont, and Lamont deserves it. But he gets to him, he's like, you big dummy. And then he's like, you're not even a cool dummy. You're just a dummy. You're not even a cool dummy. And Lamont has to take it, because in the end, this is all Lamont's fault. All Lamont's fault. And they ended up getting it. And this is I didn't put a top 5, but at the end, Lamont had to go buy copper, and Lamont redid it. And Fred's like, shouldn't we got someone else? Shouldn't we have done something else, got somebody else to do this who knows what they're doing? And Lamont's like, I know how to do this. All you got to do is find the line stripped and replace it with the copper. This is no big deal. And honestly, I work with pipes, so I know what he's saying. If you feel like you can do it, should be an easy thing. And then and this is real. When you hear them yelling, even on the show you can hear them, but when Fred's yelling, hey, you got it, and then Lamont's all, is it on? And they're yelling back and forth. And then he has to go back and forth. Fred's walking to the kitchen, what? And they both keep yelling, what? I've been under houses before checking things for pipes, and you're shouting out. You have to find a spot because you can't hear through the floor at all. It's muffled. So when you see this, it is 100% true, and I actually love this scene. And then finally he's like, is the water on? He's yelling, and Fred goes down. And they timed it right, I wonder if they did it in one take because they didn't want to, but Fred's like, what? As he's yelling, like, is the what? And he started to talk. The water comes blasting through the floor, and it gets right in his mouth. And he's like, get in the water, blah, and he just makes that noise, and he jumps back, and he's like, you big dumb, and he's just dripping with water, and it's spraying out from the floor. Obviously, Lamont didn't do the copper line correctly, and yeah, it's great. I love Fred's reaction. I love it. It's legit, the water, and the fact that they got the water in his mouth as he's talking. So they pulled it out perfectly to where it was a very funny moment. And that's it. That's it with the copper caper. I would put it towards, towards the bottom. Towards the bottom as in classics. There is not an episode of Sanford and Son I've ever watched and said boring or dumb or not very funny. They're all funny. The issue is when you're a fan like us, we are used to the extreme greatness of Red Fox and Damon Wilson and all of them, the whole crew, everybody, Esther, Bubba, Grady, all of them. So when you're taking that away and you get Fred Lamont, which is a great story, it's Steptoe and Son, and it sets up everything, it's not as intense. So still a good episode. I still laughed, but I found myself at times not laughing very much. Maybe, I don't know. It just wasn't one of those. If you've never seen it, still go watch it. Still go watch it. You will still find laughs. You will still enjoy the episode, but it is definitely not towards the top of my list on top episodes of Sanford and Son. So that is it. Thank you guys very much. Thanks for watching. Give a like, give a subscribe, and stay tuned because we got all sorts of stuff coming up. I'm going to have one or two shorts this week, including one breaking down one of the funniest clips of the show history, one of my favorites. And then we also got the Friday Fun Fact coming up this week. So stay tuned. Talk to you guys later. Peace.